Good evening, rockers. Vegas Rock got us here on the rocks. Total entertainment. Coming to you live from somewhere off the Las Vegas Strip. Tonight, we have an amazing show on the rocks exclusive with Earshot. This band has been in decades in the music scene, and we're going to talk to them tonight. They're about to embark on a major US tour. So we're going to get to know Earshot tonight. I'm a huge fan. We're going to talk about where they're going on this tour. There's some surprises along the way, so stay tuned. I'll let them in. Give us a second here. Hi, Will. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can totally hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay, let me fix that real
There we
quick
go.
here. There we are. All right. It just took it a
Cute.
second for it to like my face, I guess.
So how are you?
I'm good. I'm pretty busy lately.
Yeah, you
Uh
have been.
yeah, a little bit. I just got back from Florida about 4 or 5 days ago. We were recording our new record that's going to come out next spring, and then of course, as I'm sure you've been seeing our incessant post about our upcoming tour this fall. Uh, doing that and trying to get all the little logistic things together, t-shirts and hoodies and
All that
meet and
stuff.
greets and all kinds of things.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I'm a huge fan of your
Right
band,
on. Thank you.
and this is a great opportunity for us to talk about your band from the beginning, and then we're going to talk about this massive tour because I have all the dates in front of me, and we'll talk about that too.
Perfect.
So, your band actually started um, in 2019, is that correct?
So this incarnation of this band started in 2018.
Okay.
So our first record came out in 2002, and that our first singles, Getaway, which charted in the top five nationally at both active rock and modern rock. And that was our first real big song. And then we had Headstrong in the movie Queen of the Damned.
Right.
And then our second record, also that came out on Warner Brothers, came out a few years later. And that's where Weight came from. We toured, we did a third record after that on Universal Records, and that was The Silver Lining. And that was sort of shortly after that record was when I kind of decided to take a hiatus from everything. I just wasn't feeling super inspired, and I was kind of over all of the politics of the business, and I just needed to. It wasn't fun for me anymore, so
Right.
I needed to get my head back on straight and healthy again, and so then in 2000 back in 2016 2017, uh, one of the fine folks from Counts Vamped out in Las Vegas kept emailing and saying, "Hey, when are you guys going to come out and do shows again?" And at that point, I hadn't even been thinking about reactivating the band and or doing any shows or making any more new music. And that's right around that time is when I met Mikey, our drummer, and our then guitar player Andy, and I was telling him about these emails that I kept getting, and that's when the idea just kind of organically came up. Like, oh well, let's just do it. Let's put it together and go do this show. And so I credit uh, John, who is one of the promoters over at Counts Vamps, and Corey and all of the folks over there. With I credit them for getting us back together, and here we are now. So it's been quite a journey, 100%.
Yeah, and I was at that show, believe it or not, when you played at Vamped. And that was
Okay,
a really amazing show.
awesome, thank you. Which one were you at? The first one, the second
Yeah,
one,
I think it was
the
at the
first one?
first one. Yeah. And
Yeah,
like
it
I
was a lot
said,
of fun.
I've been a lifelong fan, and I'm really excited that you're coming back to Vegas to play a show. And it was funny because I mentioned it to another promoter in town, and she's like, "Oh my God, Earshot's coming back." I'm like, "Yeah." So I mean, the buzz is there right now for your
Nice.
band.
I
So
love it.
we're getting totally excited. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the new music that you guys are going to be coming out with?
So this is the first album. I mean, aside from the EP that we put out in, well, that I put out in 2015, which was really just some sort of leftover songs that from our previous records that didn't make the record. The Aftermath was the name of that EP. We haven't really put out a full length record. We put out a few singles here and there. We put out
Right.
Uninvited. Been a long time, and You and I, but this is the first record that we've put out in a while, and I'm sure every single band and artist says this. I've seen it myself, so it's probably going to sound a little trite to hear me say it, but people that know me know that I'm my own worst and hardest critic, and I will tell you that this is 100% the best record that will have put out. So, um, for fans watching this or people that have listened to us, if they thought any of the previous records were great, this one is really going to take the cake.
We are so excited that this will be a full length record then.
11 songs. So,
Wow.
as I said, we've been putting out singles,
Yeah.
which, there's a few different reasons for that. One of them is economical. And part of it too is that we all live in different places. I live here in Los Angeles. A couple of the guys live in Pennsylvania. A couple of the guys live in Florida. So it's hard for us to all get together. From the pandemic, we were planning on doing this a lot sooner, but the pandemic hit, and then that became a problem. And so this is the first time that we've been able to come together and get in the same room and actually work on creating a full record. Whereas with the singles, that was a little more manageable, where because we all have our own recording studios, we could record our parts and then send it down to the next guy. It's a lot harder to do that when you're talking about 11 songs. And so um, it was fabulous. We recorded in Florida, out in the St. Pete Beach at our drummer Mikey's house. We turned his whole house into a recording studio because he has a recording studio there anyways, but we just took it over even more. And it's a beautiful house. It's right on the bay, right on the water, literally. Like you walk out the back door and it's just a big dock and a swimming pool and then the bay. So it was a really nice setting, probably the coolest setting that I've experienced in making a record, and it was really, really amazing. But I'm really, really proud of the music and the recording. And we're not quite done with recording all of the parts yet, but we've got, drums for everything. We've got basic rhythm guitars for everything. We have most of the vocals, not all. I'm still doing some work on that. We still have some bass stuff yet to do, but just as it's sitting now, it already sounds so good, and it's not mixed or anything, so it's only going to get better from here. So I'm really looking forward to getting this out next year.
Yeah. Are you going to give us a sneak preview when you come to Vegas of a few of the new songs?
Yeah, so we were talking about that. We're just so excited about these songs, and we're so certain that people are going to really love these songs that we can't wait for people to hear them. So we were actually talking about and have decided to sprinkle a couple in to our set list when we go out this fall.
That's great. I mean, so
And
amazing.
I know like I said, we're really, really, really excited.
Now, are you the main songwriter, Will, or do you get collaborations from the rest of your band?
So I'm not. I don't write everything. I do write a lot, but typically it's a collaboration of everybody. I know there are some songs, maybe a handful of songs that I wrote standalone, and then some of the guys would come in and maybe finish up like a bridge or something that needed to be put in there. Or I know Aaron, came in with a few handful of songs. His were a little more fleshed out than mine were. And then I know John's got a few on here, the bass player. But we all contribute. I mean, even the songs that we sort of had a sketch for changed a little bit, and that happens when you all get into a room and everyone's ideas start sort of coming out, and you're trying and you're experimenting with different things. So that's what's made this really special and makes every record special, quite frankly. Um, but it's what made it all come together even better than we had anticipated that it would.
Yeah, I mean, collaborating with everyone and getting everyone on the same page, that's amazing.
It
So,
is. And
what,
getting us all into one room.
right, exactly. So, what are some of your influences, Will, as a vocalist? Who do you love?
It's funny to talk about this. A lot of people out there would if they had to guess and put a gun to their head, they'd probably say, "Oh, he's influenced by Tool, right?" Um, and I've never been a huge Tool fan. I respect them, and there are a couple songs that I like, but that was never a band that when I listened to made me go, "That's what I want to do." The bands and vocalists that really influenced me, and still to this day do, and that I still respect, is Ed from Live, the band Live,
Oh, I love them.
um, and Walter from Quicksand, and Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots, Chris Cornell, Soundgarden. I'm a '90s. I grew up in the '90s as a kid, and so a lot of that, is just inherently steeped, along with all the metal that I grew up listening to, the Metallica, the Megadeth, the Exodus, Testament. Like those were the bands that when I was learning how to play guitar, those were the bands that I was listening to and trying to emulate as a guitar player when I, long before I became a singer. Um, so I have sort of this hodgepodge of, thrash metal background that I grew up on. And then kind of coming of age in the '90s when the grunge era hit, I consider myself lucky for both of those.
Yeah, and it's funny because I listen to your music all the time, but I was kind of doing a retrospect the
Mm.
past couple days, and I'm like, there you have some elements of thrash in a few of your songs, but if you don't listen, you're not gonna catch it. But
Yeah.
again, I mean, it's your music is just so timeless. It might be like I don't like to categorize any music because I mean they say your band is like alternative metal. I just think you guys are pure rock and roll.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think just about any song that you can turn on the radio is going to sound or resemble, you know, another song, a predecessor before that one, right? I mean,
Right.
there's only so many chords, and your voice is your voice. Um, I think that at least for me, I focus on just trying to stay in my lane of what I do or what I know I can do. I mean, listen, I wish I could, sometimes scream like Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, but my throat, it just doesn't do that. It won't do that. And I'm not a ventriloquist. I can't make my voice sound like somebody else's. It just is what it is. And so I always play to my strengths of what I know I can do and do the best with what I have. So the rest of it is just being creative, and in that creative process, you're constantly, again, at least I am, drawing from the things that are subconsciously in the back of my mind that I grew up listening to that I love. And those were the two genres of rock that to this day I still love. I still listen to Testament and Exodus, and I still listen to all the '90s bands that I
Right.
still love and was listening to back then. So um, I think influences are important, and and if I weren't influenced by those things, then I don't know that I would have much personality in how I'm taking these things that are influencing me and kind of throwing them into a pot and,
Right.
baking my own cake, so to
Yeah.
speak.
And you know what? Your band has a unique sound. You have the footprint. So you don't sound like everyone else. And that's what I love about your band. You're consistent and it's just fun listening to your music.
Yeah, and I think, you know, on this record, I think our what I call our base fans, the fans that gave us our career, that were there, that, I mean, let's face it, without all the people that bought our records over the years and that called in radio stations and came out to the shows all these years to support us, we wouldn't be having this conversation, at least not in this context, right? Um, but I forgot where I was going with this. Um,
It's okay.
I got sidetracked by a little pop up thing. No, what I was going to say was, so when what's so special about this record is the fact that we sort of listen to the feedback of, because as you said, we're not afraid to be experimental and go outside of the lines of what made us, right? Um, and I certainly have been a big driver of, hey, I want to experiment and explore different things. Everything doesn't always have to be heavy. Like, it can be melodic, it can be slow, it can be heartfelt. Like, it's okay. I've never had any issue with going all these different directions. But what I what I realized, and just reading comments and messages, from fans that write us, that respect us and love us, the message that really sort of resonated with me recently was, where's the, like, I love all this stuff that you've done and experimented with, but where's that heaviness, that of the first records, that sound that you guys were. And when I thought about it, I think because I took what was really meant as a compliment for most people about, oh, he sounds like the singer from Tool, or it's Tool Jr., or whatever it was. I think that I took such offense to that because, as I said, every artist wants to have their own identity. I think that subconsciously I deliberately drove in a completely different direction just so I could show people that, hey, no, actually, I'm a lot more than that and can do a lot more different things. And I allowed that to sort of drive us away from where we were and where we started from. So this record kind of is neat because we're going back to that, and I'm not worried about the criticism, and I guess I don't care anymore about that. I realized that a lot of it was was complimentary and not meant as an insult or a slight. I'm sure some of them are, but most of them are not. It's just people, when they're talking about you, they're trying to describe you. Um, that's inherent. I do it when I listen to a new band. I go, oh, it reminds me of this. I don't mean that in a derogatory way or to mean that they sound exactly like that band. I'm just trying to describe to somebody something that I know they already like, right? So that it piques their interest enough to go listen to them. So, I guess that's part of the growth on my part personally, and not allowing that to upset me so much and just accept it for what it is. So that's what's really cool about this record, is it kind of goes back, and I think this is really going to satisfy a lot of our OG fans out there that that loved our first two records
Right.
immensely, and we kind of went away from that a little bit.
Yeah. And I think the whole point with your band is live.
Mm.
The record is great, Will,
Yeah.
but until people get in front of you and see your band live performing their favorite songs on the records, they're really going to embrace what your band is all about.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the constant compliments that we've always gotten is, man, your records sound great, but you guys are incredible live. Like, you sound even better live. The band, your voice, we work really hard at that. We work really hard to be as good at our respective instruments as we can. And um, how I've been to shows, where I've heard something that sounds really good on a record, and then I go to see it and kind of disappointed, or um, I wish it would have been better. Um, I don't know. I mean, we also try to create an environment also that people can forget about their everyday problems that are happening, and can, for at least a few hours, get away from all of that, no pun intended, and escape all of that. And we really try to create that environment to where people are involved and participating in the show with us. That's what's really cool about shows. It's the opportunity to sort of exchange that energy with each other. So thank you for that. And yeah, that's I guess we're just lucky that that we're able to be as good as how we're presented on a record live. I mean, that's kind of how we approach recording our records, is we record how we sound and the performance of that.
Yeah, and I think, Will, too, the pandemic, even though it was absolutely horrible for everyone, I think as a musician, as a rock journalist, I think it brought out the best in us, because we actually it made us work a little bit harder, try something new, get a different audience.
Yeah.
And I think everyone is ready to see you
Yeah.
guys play live again.
Well, we've been getting a lot of requests over, since, back in 2011 or 12, when I decided to take a step back. There's been no shortage of messages and comments, about, please come out and tour again. We miss you guys. We want to see you. And I know this tour that we have coming up in the fall doesn't hit all of the spots on the map, but it's important for our fans to know. And I try as best as we can to get it out to everybody. But it's not that we don't want to, or don't want to go to certain places. It's because it's been so long that we've been out touring, that we kind of have to take things a little slow out of the gate. But we're going to get to those places eventually. And yeah, I might add too, like, this tour is definitely going to help us hopefully get to the rest of the country next year when we do this again, depending on the success and turnout, which a lot of these markets that we're going into on this tour are, these are the cities where our fans, whenever we've posted online, hey, where should we go and play a show? These are people and places that have left their city, their venue. And what happens is the promoters and club owners in those cities or venues see this, and then they contact our agent, and vice versa. We know where to go because we're seeing where people are telling us to come to. So it's not that, again, I want to make clear, there are people that in Colorado, Kansas City, Chicago, they have left comments come here, just not as many on this short run. When we were planning, we only intended this, by the way, to be a 2-week run. It's turned into 3, a little over 3 actually. So it's gone on a little longer than we had set out to do in the first place, which is great. We love playing shows, but next year we'll be doing some more stuff. And I just really encourage people watching this, to really be active on our post when we ask, where should we go for this next tour? Because it really does. We really do listen to that.
It does. Social media plays such a big part in, I would say it's a small part in the success of this tour. So now that we're talking about this, let's get to it, Will. Let's talk about your tour. The first date is going to be San Diego, Brick by Brick. I have been there. This is an amazing venue in San Diego.
Mhm.
The sound, the acoustics are amazing.
Yeah, it's funny because I was in San Diego a couple of months ago to see Cold when they played there, and I hadn't been to Brick by Brick since our very first tour we were at with Hoobastank. I haven't been, so this is really cool for me because I haven't played there in so long, and I'm really looking forward to it. And it's a beautiful city too, as you know. Um, Great restaurants around there and food and stuff to do. So I'm really looking forward to going back there and reconnecting with all of our friends and fans in San Diego.
Yeah, that's a great venue. And then of course the next stop is Las Vegas
Yep.
and Count
You
Vamps.
know, I really love that venue. And I think even if we get back to the level where we were at before, um, where we were playing theaters and some bigger stuff, but even if we were got back to that level, I would still want to play Counts of Amps in Las Vegas just because I love the people there. I love the people that work there. Corey's great. Absolutely love the venue. I love the vibe. I think they did such a great job with that. As a matter of fact, um, my favorite venue and ownership was a club out in Flint, Michigan called the Machine Shop. I'm sure you've seen the
Yes,
shirts because a lot of
yes,
bands wear them.
yeah,
Kevin and his brother that own it, great venue, great fans. Every band loves to play there because they're so hospitable. The fans are so supportive, and Counts Vamp reminds me of the same exact thing just in Las Vegas. And so I'm really hoping that, more bands will want to play there because it is such a killer place to play and the fans are great.
yeah. I mean,
Sounds great.
Vegas is just a hotbed for amazing rock and roll. And like I
Yeah.
said, we're really looking forward to having you. I will be there covering your
Nice.
show. So it's going to be super, super exciting. Because I
I love
also
it.
noticed on your tour, you're covering Texas, a lot of Texas.
So Texas has been sort of a stronghold for us over the years, for whatever reason, and I think we could probably and have before we've done tours that were just in Texas. I mean, you could literally do a week worth of shows easily, and so we're excited to get back to Texas as well. I spent a lot of time in Houston, from 2007 to 2012 ish. So I have a lot of friends there. I know we have a lot of fans there, and it's been a long while since I think we played a show there a few years back, but it was sort of a real impromptu thing. We're definitely, promoting this tour a lot since it's our first tour coming out of a almost 10-year hiatus. So, but we're looking forward to all of these places. There's a lot of stops on this tour that just kind of brings back, some of the memories of when we were
Right.
first, fledgling little band that nobody knew who we were yet. And it's just kind of cool to go back to some of these places and again, just reconnect and, with some new faces, and we've got some new music that we're going to be, pumping out at these shows too. So just all around, super, super looking forward to this tour.
Yeah. And I know you end the tour in Pennsylvania at Love
Mhm.
Darts, Love Drafts. I'm sorry, Love
Love
Drafts.
draft set.
That is an amazing club.
That's what I hear. I have never been there. But I have lots of friends and other bands that have gone through there on their tours, and I follow them on social media as well, and I see the stuff that they're posting, and it does seem like a really cool spot. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, that's going to be, like I said, this tour is killer. I mean, you guys added an extra week, so you're going to be 3 weeks on the road. I mean, all these venues, some of them I've been to, like Dingbats in Clifton, New
Yep.
Jersey. What a great place, also.
Yeah. Yeah. No, at the East Coast is a, I'm always entertained and amused when I go to the East Coast, just because the attitude is so different from the
Oh
West
yeah.
Coast, and I appreciate it. Like, I think it's great that, there's a lot less unfiltered thinking that happens there, as you know, as compared to here, and so yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm from the Midwest, so
Me
hopefully,
too.
yeah. What part of the Midwest are you from?
I'm from originally from Kansas.
Okay, see, I'm from Chicago originally.
Okay, Illinois.
Um,
All right, yep, right
yeah,
next door.
I've been, out here in Vegas 22 years, but
Nice.
Chicago, as far as rock and roll, there's some great places you guys can play next year.
Yeah, yeah. No, we'll see. We're definitely we're starting to sort of line things up a little bit for next year. We're not sure. We may do a spring, some shows in the spring, and then a full thing in the fall, or we may just wait until the fall to
Yeah,
go out once we because next year is also the anniversary of our second album too.
right.
So we're talking about doing an anniversary tour for that. But then, as I mentioned, we have a new album coming out in the spring too. So um not sure how it's going to shake out yet with the tour, but we I know that we'll definitely be out there.
Yeah, and that's great. Will, what do you love about music?
A lot of things. I mean, I like first and foremost, the thing that attracted me to music when I was a kid was the fact that, because I was always the lone wolf kid. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I was sort of well, I still am in some ways, but I was very much then an introvert and didn't talk to many people because I never felt like people understood me really. And when I started listening to bands like Metallica and Rat and Led Zeppelin, Cinderella, and all the thrash metal bands that I mentioned earlier, just listening, the sound, the lyrics, what they were saying connected with me. And I felt like someone understood me in a way that, you know, people my age couldn't. And so I fell in love with music to the point that I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to create it. And then I wanted to also create music that could do for other people what it did for me, what I just described to you, and in being able to connect and understand, have someone feel like they're understood in a way that maybe other people can't, or can't explain or describe in their own words, but I can, right? And that's what music did for me. And so that's the whole reason for me why I do music is it's a creative outlet for me, and it's something that I love to do. But really, the driver for me is connecting with other people and hoping that, something that I say, or, a guitar or a combination of all of that just creates an environment where people can sort of, get away from whatever they're sitting in at that moment.
Yeah, and your music is really impactful. I've had a couple bad days and I put on one of your songs and it would take me to a different place, and that's what I love about your music.
I mean, for me, my personal lyric writing style, mostly, not always, but mostly, I like to write in a way to where I'm talking to somebody, so that when somebody is listening to our song, they feel like I'm speaking to them, and they can interpret what I'm saying and apply it however it fits for them. But I'm talking about a feeling, and so that in a way that people can take that and sort of use it as tools to to sort of realize or recognize things or figure things out or start some kind of process to where they begin to, you know sort of sort out whatever it is that's going on for them. That's sort of my approach by design. Like, that's really how I think. Like, when I'm writing about something, for example, if someone is feeling bad because someone lied to them that's really important to them. For example, I'm just making a trite example. I I try to write about, what I would say to them if someone were going through that. Like what, so that it's helpful to them, so that again it goes back to that, when you hear something and you go, wow, this person, band, or I don't know this person, but they understand what I'm going through right in this moment. And I remember when that happened for me when I was, 11, 12 years old. I felt like a big, huge weight was lifted off my shoulders, just knowing that somebody else was experiencing the same thing that I was going through. And it didn't make me feel crazy anymore. Like I felt relieved, like, okay, well, if they made it through the other side, then so can I. Right. So it gave me that hope. And that's always what I wanted to do, for other people, that same thing. And a lot of those bands that I just mentioned did that for me so many times, and still do. I listen to some new artists and bands all the time, that do that for me. So it's a great thing.
Yeah. What was the first concert, Will, that you went to and you paid your own money?
Wasp, Long Beach Arena.
Yeah.
That was my first show. And then after that it was Metallica. It was the Injustice for All tour.
That
Was
was
the
a
first,
great
and
tour.
it was so loud. My head was ringing for like 2 days, but it was great. So much fun. And then yeah, I got the bug. Like I wanted to go and see all the rock bands. And the only band I never got to see, sadly, I never got to see Alice in Chains live. And I can't remember, I didn't see Soundgarden back in the day. I did see them later on, and of course, we played shows with Audio Slave when Chris
Right.
Cornell was doing that. But I've been fortunate enough. I mean, I've gotten to see everything, and still do, and it's great. I mean, the novelty's kind of worn off for me, just because I've been to so many shows and played so many shows. Like,
Right.
but when I remember when, before that, when I was, growing up, I loved going to concerts.
Yeah. It's so much fun. I mean, I have decades also of shows. I mean, I've seen every Van Halen tour. I mean, I'm one of very few that have seen every single tour on the roster for that band.
Yeah.
So I have a
So
personal connection.
I have to ask you. I know you asked the questions at your show, but I have to ask, since you brought up Van Halen, Sammy Hagar, David Lee Roth.
Ooh, see, I have a theory with this. Okay, so I don't know if you're going to agree with this, but David Lee Roth is the Vegas of Van Halen,
Mm.
and Sammy Hagar is the rocker of Van Halen. So you got a showman and you got a rocker.
Yeah.
You
I've
know,
always struggled with the answer to that question
it's
because I
hard.
mean,
It's hard.
I mean, the first few Van Halen records were definitive. I mean, those. I mean, would there have been a Van Halen to begin with if there were no David Lee Roth? Like,
Right.
Would
Exactly.
Eddie Van Halen just have been another guy, a really good guy, but would he have just been another guy that went unnoticed, like so many other that are out there in the world today, without David Lee Roth? I don't know. It's
Yeah,
hard to say.
it's the never ending question. I
But I
get
will
that a
agree that
lot.
Sammy Hagar definitely took him to a whole nother level,
Yeah. I
for
think that
sure.
was like the second coming, you
Yeah.
know, of Van Halen. I think once he joined the band, because it's funny because I've seen Gary Sharon. I saw the first show
Right. I remember that.
when
A
he,
brief flash.
yeah, and I did. They did the first show on that tour at the International Amphitheater in Chicago when they started that
Nice.
tour. And it's funny because the seats that I had were directly above Gary Sharon. So he was like, actually, I'll tell you a little backstory. He was actually 20 minutes late coming on.
Oh
He
wow.
was nervous.
Really?
Yeah, because I could tell because I was like right there. And yeah, he was shaking in his shoes a
Interesting.
little bit for
I mean,
that.
it's tough coming, coming out of David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar.
Right.
That's tough.
So that was definitely a prolific show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was
Great
a
band.
one off. That was it for that tour.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That was
Great band. Van
that
Halen,
was
love them.
super interesting.
Yeah.
But before you go, I'm going to ask you one final question. I always ask this question to I
Sure.
kind of change it up. What was the first album you ever bought, Will, with your own money?
Cinderella Night Songs.
Real okay, that's a great record.
And that was the first record. I bought it. I bought it because I'd never seen any band look the way that they did at that point. I think I was like 12 years old or something when that record came out.
Right.
And I was like, wow, these guys look pretty crazy. So then and then, obviously the logo for Cinderella looked, real dark and sort of gothic. And I got it home and I was on a cassette tape and I put it in. And then I remember Night Songs coming on and that eerie, like guitar intro with the wind and all
Oh,
this
it was
other kind of
great.
stuff. And I was like,
That's one of my favorite songs, honest to God, of Cinderella.
yeah,
Because of the
yeah,
beginning. It's so prolific.
yeah. And Tom Kiefer's voice was just like, wow, like how was he sounding like this? This is crazy. And I couldn't I couldn't put that album down for a long time. And then then after that is when shortly after that is when I found Motley Crue. I think I think it was Shout at the Devil or maybe Theater of Pain. One of those two I got my hands on shortly after that.
Theater of Pain. That's my record.
Yeah. And then from there I discovered Metallica. And then some friends of mine were really into like DRI and all of these like punk thrash bands. And it was a little too much for me, but then they were listening to Anthrax and Testament. I was like, oh, now this is cool. And just so many cool bands, that I was steeped in. I still play those records to this day just because they made such an impression on me. Um, they're timeless. Among
Yeah,
the Living is like one of my most favorite records of
that's a
all time,
great
aside from the
record.
Metallica records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or
such
New
a
Order
great,
from Testament.
yes.
Testament. I mean, that New Order record was just, I played that record all of the time. This was like regular rotation for me, young Will.
Yeah. I mean, just Testament alone is such a great band. Even Wasp in the beginning,
Yeah.
uh, they just, I mean, the first three records, like killer.
Yeah. Yeah. They were amazing. And there was a lot more theatrics, to their shows. I mean, I don't, we don't do that. It's never been my thing, but I was always fascinated with, their production was just so big and over the top back then, with all the
Yeah.
thick smoke and, all that stuff. And, um, it was just a lot, it was really raw and exciting,
Yes.
back then. And I feel that that's what's lacking, in today's rock is doesn't have that same, and maybe it's because it's not as new as it was back then. I don't know, but I mean, I also think like for the younger generation coming up, it's new to them, right? So it should. I wish it were as exciting for them as it was for me, but that seems to be one of the missing things happening nowadays. I don't know. Maybe it's just because there's so many bands and there weren't as many, but I don't
Right.
know.
I just think the
That
80s
is,
was a vibe, but I still think rock in general is really making a comeback, like a pre-comeback.
yeah.
I think 23 and 24 is going to be the year that's really going to pull everything together for your band as well.
Well, from your mouth to God's ears.
Well, Will, thank you so much for coming on the rocks. It was great talking to you. I feel like we could talk for hours
We
uh,
could.
about rock and music in general in the business, but I cannot wait to see your show here in Vegas on the 30th. And maybe we'll
Yep.
talk a little bit more in person. Can't wait to get
100%.
some video for you, some pictures. It's going to be great. I want to give a special shout out to Shauna for putting this all together for me. She's amazing. I
She
met
is.
actually Shauna and I have met before. I met her at Kill Switch Engage
Nice.
here in Las Vegas. So she's amazing. Thank you so much, Shauna. And
Yes.
we'll see you on the road, Will. I've got the list of
Yes, you
shows.
will.
I'm going to do some promo for you for this tour. So I'm going to
I
get the
love it.
ball
Thank you so
rolling for
much.
you.
I love it. And yes, we probably could talk for many more hours. So if you want to do another show again sometime, I'm totally in. Just let me know.
Let's reconnect once this tour gets started. Um, when you come off the tour, let's talk again. Let's get going, and we'll see what happened. You'll have some stories for me,
Yes, yes,
and it'll be
100%. I'll,
fabulous.
I'll probably have stories for you by the time I see you in Vegas.
I'm sure you will. Well, take care, Will. Rest up because you're going to be busy.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. And I will see you very soon.
Yeah, I will see you very soon. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Wow, what a great guy, Will Martin from the band that's going to be in Vegas, Earshot. This is a great band. They have put the stamp on rock and roll. So looking forward to some new music from them. They have an amazing tour. They're going to start this tour in San Diego. They're going to hit Counts Vamped right here in Las Vegas on the 30th. And they're going to end that tour at Love Drafts in Pennsylvania. So we're going to look forward to a follow-up from Will when he gets done with this tour. So excited. I'm going to be seeing them right here in Vegas. I'll be covering the show live. I'll be doing pictures and video as well as probably meeting with the band. It's going to be a great evening of rock. So if you're in the Vegas area, September 30th, Counts Vamped right here in Las Vegas. I am the Vegas rock goddess, Carol Lemon. Thank you for watching. Always like and subscribe to On the Rocks Total Entertainment. You never know who's going to be stopping by. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.